Welcome back to the Blissful Badger. This week's video, I wanted to talk about my Horus Heresy Death Guard army and my progress so far. I purchased my first box of Age of Darkness over a year ago, and although I had some ideas about what army I wanted to play, I originally thought about maybe going Raven Guard. I eventually came to the decision to go Death Guard. I really like the lore of the Dusk Raiders and how they were betrayed, within their own legion on Istvaan. And I wanted to build a loyalist army of Death Guard, going back to those Terran roots of the Dusk Raiders. I knew I wanted to go with a light tan-colored army, and figured that weathering it with oil washes would probably be a great step in learning a new technique of painting. So I originally started by building 40 sets of legs and torsos, and they sat on the shelf for several months. Eventually, I picked up the Legion's Astartes battle group of Mark III Marines, and realized this would be a perfect way to add veterans to my army. So one of the biggest things I realized, I wanted to have both Mark VI and Mark III styles, and I wanted to go heavy on the Death Guard theme, and so many Meltas and heavy flamers were going to need to be included. And I also wanted them to have plenty of pouches so that they had all of the equipment that they might need while they were advancing on their enemies. One of my friends at the game shop helped me decide on an initial 3,000 point army list using the models that I had. And so that gave me a guide on what specific models I needed to build. And then I let them sit on the shelf for a few more months. But then, at the beginning of April, when I went to the swap meet, I picked up another Age of Darkness box, brand new sealed. And I realized it was time for me to finally build the 142 models that I had for my Death Guard army now. So I got to building. So for painting, I found a matte Riverstone primer and paint in one, and decided that would be a perfect color for the base armor. I primed up a few models and started working on painting. And I decided to paint up my 2 apothecaries and a Cataphracti Terminator as my first test models. These both had more trim than most of the other models that I would be painting, signifying their higher ranks. And my apothecaries are actually old metal Space Marines, and I felt that would be quite cool in a Heresy army, even if they are wearing a later Mark armor. I figured it would be a good way to signify their Artificer armor. So I used Carmine Red for their right shoulder pad and right hand, signifying their Dusk Raider heritage. I used Medium Olive for their left shoulder pad and their backpack, because they are Death Guard after all. And for their trim, I used bright bronze. The apothecary helmets were painted in ivory, and I used oily steel for the weapon casings. Barrels and blades of their chainswords were chainmail silver. And then for the heavy flamers and for the power scythes and claws on the Cataphracti Terminators with lightning claws, I'm going to use rough iron, just for another little pop. They're a bright model, so dark weaponry sounds like a good idea. And then for brown, I just used mahogany brown. And overall, this is what they look like with the normal painting step. From here, I still have to decide on exactly what basing material and style I'm going for. And once I have at least 1,000 points painted up to this level, I plan on trying out oils for the first time. I've been wanting to learn how to use oil washes, and I think that the Death Guard grimification should work well for this type of painting. So I do still need to build the other 2,000 points from the original boxes, plus the additional Age of Darkness box, which I have several conversion ideas in mind for some of those troops. I still have to get some heavy weapons and special weapons teams together. For the sake of gameplay, I'll probably build 2 more units of 10 tacticals. All of the Mark III armor is going to be veterans and special weapons. I don't know what I'm going to do with the other 10 cataphracti yet. And man, are Spartans large. I can't wait to build up my second one. For the Praetor, I wanted to do something special, and I didn't want to just use a normal sword or double-handed axe like comes in Age of Darkness. But I also didn't want to put a large amount of time and effort into converting them up. So I decided to take a Tyrannid Scything Talon and the Great Axe and make myself a power scythe with a couple of trims and a little bit of cleaning up to make sure everything lined up right, and a little bit of sprue goo. I managed to turn this Great Axe into a power scythe. And I really enjoy the way that it came out. I don't think anyone's going to argue what that weapon is on the tabletop. It's quite large and noticeable. And I really like the way it came out. Overall, it only took me about 8 minutes to build that. So it feels really good and very Death Guard-y to have a scythe on my Praetor. So overall, I have 34 of my 142 models built already. It's not a huge army, but it's a good start. I hope you enjoyed this video and my progress in my Death Guard army. Subscribe if you haven't so that you don't miss any future videos. I also want to thank my patrons and supporters for making these videos possible. And until next time, I hope you find your bit of bliss.